right, Leah, would you like to kick off this meeting right away?
Sure. I'll call the meeting to order with a roll call. Ann Bear.
Hi, Ann, can you hear us?
I can now. Sorry,
There she is.
trying to find the link. I was in the invite and then I saw it came over separately. So, hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Steve Bouch.
I'm here.
Mike Faes.
Here.
Alderman Chris Guzikowski.
I'm here.
Heather Ryan.
Here.
Adam Thiel.
Adam's giving me an excused absence. He let me know
Okay.
so that he wouldn't be able to make it.
Thank you. And Nicole Druckery.
Here.
All right, that's everyone from the commission. I can't see who is all in the room on the Zoom. So maybe Lori, could you call out the members of the staff that are here?
Sure. So we have Jeff Went today, Ted Johnson. We also have the mayor joining us, and Andrew Vickers, our city admin this evening.
Oh, excellent. All right. So item number 2 is approval of the minutes from November 12th, 2020. Did anybody make a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Anybody have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Heather. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Excellent. Minutes approved. Moving to number 3, new business. Election of commission chairperson and secretary.
We've made it another year around the sun. So, right. So we're back again. So who would like to make a first nomination?
Like to
Guzikowski
nominate Leah
will-
for another term.
Guzikowski would nominate Leah.
Basil second.
I think, am I supposed to accept the nomination before the vote? I think so.
Yep.
So yes, I'll accept the nomination. Is there anyone else that would like to nominate? Anyone else? Okay, hearing no other nominations, then I suppose we still should vote. So all in favor of myself continuing in the role of chairperson, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Moving to secretary. Anybody have a recommendation or a nomination for secretary? Our current secretary is Ann.
I'll nominate Ann as continuing on as a secretary position, if she would accept it.
Guzikowski would second.
I will accept.
Okay, anyone else have any other nominations for secretary? Okay, all in favor of Ann for secretary, say aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Congratulations, Ann. Thank you for continuing in your role.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. It's good to win sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. So we're moving to item B, proposal for consideration. We have the guest speaker, Mayor Dan Bukevich, with us to present a proposal on the walking trail renaming.
Hey, am I on? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, you
Okay.
are.
I came to you back in March with the idea of naming the trails down at Lake Vista after our former city attorney, municipal judge, and really a guy behind the scenes that is so largely responsible for Lake Vista's existence that I think it's appropriate to name the trails. Steve went down. Steve Bouch went down. He checked it all out, and where do we put them? You can see how the trail entrances kind of start. And I actually think this might have been Andrew Vickers' idea. He kind of said, what about the pavilions? It might be easier. I actually really did like that idea, and I'll keep this as brief as possible. I think you're all aware of Larry's past history, but if we name the main pavilion, one with the kitchen and the whole thing, the Haskin Pavilion, that would leave us the shelter. That second shelter, I had spoke with Lori and she goes, well, maybe there's somebody else. And after really thinking about it, I came up with Janet Fugel. Those of you that have been on the commission for a while, Janet was the longtime chairperson of it, 20 plus years. She did a great job. She was a firecracker of a lady. Cancer kind of took her down. We did plant the tree in her honor a couple years back. I think Anne started that effort. It was a lovely effort. It was a lovely gesture. But I think we could take that extra step. I mean, she was a fixture here. She was passionate about parks, and she was a very colorful character in Oak Creek's history, and I think it's worth it. So with that, just to let you know, I did talk to Larry Haskins about this. And Larry's a very humble individual. He says he'd prefer not to have it named after him. It was usually you do this when somebody passes away. And I said, we should really honor those when we can and when it's appropriate. And I do believe this is appropriate. Larry is still in the backgrounds, helping on the north end, bluff stabilization, and the development of this area even though he's since retired as our city administrator. So, Andrew, anything you'd like to add on that?
Here, I can turn my video on here. Sorry about that. That's not good etiquette. I think it's a great idea. I've had the honor of working with Larry for the last almost 5 years now, and I think what Dan said was completely appropriate. I mean, we'd probably be 10 years behind where we're at today without Larry at the helm. And one question I did have, though, and maybe some of you know, I don't know, do we have, I think in the shelter we have like engraved in the cement block, like Pavilion A or Shelter 1 or something generic like that. How is the upper pavilion, the main pavilion, named? Is it etched in a block that serves as the building, or is there just nothing there at this point?
I don't recall ever seeing anything there.
When I was down there at Easter, I don't recall seeing anything.
Me either.
There's nothing in the main pavilion.
Yeah, the Larry one might be easy. The other one might be a little more expensive, but I'm sure a mason can figure out how to, re-etch that or cover that and maybe use a placard or something along those lines, however we want to do that. And then the other question is, do you want to, Dan, are you thinking like some sort of a simple narrative, or are you just thinking the name?
I just I'm kind of thinking you could have a simple narrative to it, and I'll use Janet, for example. You could say Janet Fugel, served as park commissioner, blah, 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 chairman for this long, her passion and vision for the parks in Oak Creek, help make possible, the environment you're enjoying today or something. We'll get somebody better than I to write for sure. And Larry, we can talk about everything. His might be a little more lengthy, but he's done so much in Oak Creek. It doesn't have to read like a tombstone, I guess. And again, if it's a plaque, Ted, Rebecca had that plaque made up for Janet at the park, and talking to Spencer at the time, he says they just affix that with adhesive. So, I don't know. I don't know what the cost would be, but I'm sure we can figure that out. We've spent money on other things that I think are less important.
So I'm sorry, this is Nicole, one of the commissioners. Are you saying I'm new to the commission. Have we already named something after Janet Fugel, or is that part of the proposal here today?
We planted a tree in her honor, Nicole. She got cancer and went pretty quick. And basically we planted a tree in the park late late one fall, and there's just a stone, a rock basically next to the tree that kind of says this tree is in honor of Janet Fugel. And we also did that for Dave Lane over at the city garage too, I believe.
If I could play devil's advocate maybe a little bit. I don't know Larry. I've met him maybe once or twice, but from my perspective, what we're doing is we're rewarding an employee who's been with us for 30 years. And that's great. I'm glad they've been with us for 30 years and he was compensated for that. So are there other people we've considered for this honor that have been with the city for 30 years or volunteered?
We technically really don't name things after people. It's pretty rare. The last time we did this was former Mayor Dale Richards. We did the trails at Emerald Preserve. And it was really a reflection upon the work Dale did for the city. You know, we typically don't name parks after people. The only park in the city named after a mayor is Abendschein. And again, Art Abendschein is kind of the whole George Washington of Oak Creek, and that's why he kind of got it. But it's not commonplace. No, it's really not. To tell you the truth, I don't, even if we considered others, I don't think anybody'd stand up to Larry's record. I don't think there's anybody out there.
Let me interrupt you there. I mean, I'm an attorney. I've been in private practice. I've been compensated for my services. I don't know that I would expect any client to honor me by naming something after me. And from what I hear about Janet Fugel, I mean, that person was a volunteer. She donated her time to the city without compensation. And so to me, someone like that is almost more deserving than say Mr. Haskins. And I guess maybe it's because I'm not familiar with him and I don't appreciate what he's done, but.
No, I understand where you're coming from without a doubt. Now the work he's doing for us now, he's without compensation. Much of the work he did went far and above what he was compensated for. Again, this really, whether he was compensated or not, it's contributions to the city that I'm really looking at.
Part of what I would have to say about Larry is that when this all came to fruition, yes, he was a city attorney and he was compensated for it, but Larry also had a vision with the whole eastern shore in Lake Vista that nobody else could put together, and he had the right pieces of the puzzle to continue with the fulfillment. And when you see the fruition of what came of Lake Vista, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a number of years of turning every stone that could be turned, and then some more after it going dormant because of his efforts. So I think from that perspective, that would be one reason why I would be in favor of Larry's name going up there.
If I could just chime in quickly, if you don't mind, I maybe, and I don't have as much history as some of you in the city. I've only been here about 5 years, but being intimately involved in the lakefront now and trying to get this Lakeshore Commons project to the finish line, that has been teeth gnashing and head banging against the wall. We're very close, but if you could repaint the picture of what the postcard for Oak Creek looked like out at the lakefront from 1900 to 2010, I mean, we're dealing with just at Lake Vista Park, old chemical companies, DuPont. I mean, this was a major industrial brownfield, and the complexity of the work, I think, is really what Larry spearheaded. They work with the private property owners to negotiate with them to spend tens of millions of dollars to clean up their property. The work with the regulatory agencies, EPA, DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, to really have the city find itself now in title of this Lake Vista Park and another 40-ish or so acres around Lake Vista Park that we're able to redevelop with environmental protections in place, such that we're not a liability. The city is not a liability just being in the chain of title through a voluntary party liability exemption that covers the site. It was pretty much, if you could draw up a poster child brownfield redevelopment in the country, after we develop it, I suppose, even more so, but just to get us to this point, I couldn't overstate the actual complexity of that work. So just to kind of echo what Dan and Alderman Guzikowski were saying, it was not routine legal work, that's for sure. But I appreciate Nicole's points as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate that additional information because, you know, obviously, Mayor Dan, your recommendation is, you know, held in high regard as everybody on this call, but it's good to know a little bit about the history. And it sounds like he was really intimately involved with this particular location of Oak Creek, right? When in developing Lake Vista and where it is today. So that resonates with me. I can see now why naming a trail after him really kind of is symbolic to the work that he did, and this is like the final result of everything he did early on in setting the stage.
And just to share this with you, I had the conversation with Larry today, and again, he was very humble. Let's say my internet connection's unstable. Sorry if I black out on you or something. He was very humble about it. You know, he says, I prefer not to. Everybody's going to say that. But he was very honored that the city would think of him in that capacity. Larry, when he was in high school, Larry's South Side guy, grew up in this area. He actually worked in the factories there while he was in high school and going through college. So he has firsthand knowledge of just what those factories look like. And he was in his office and he goes, you know, it's really ironic you call me because he's looking at the northern phase on the cleanup, and he has pictures of the history of Lake Vista. And he goes, I'm literally looking at a picture of where what was at the pavilion site in the 1930s and what it looked like. And he says, it looks like a toxic dump. I mean, it's just old factories and barrels and the whole thing. So, you know, I think the passion's there. Again, this is a work in progress. We're going to have, you know, multiple phases of this park going on over the years. But again, I really think it's something we should do while the person's here and not after the fact and go, oh yeah, you know, we should have gave him the pat on the back while he was here instead of when we're putting a rose down instead or planting a tree in memory.
Just
I'd like
one
to-
additional comment for the group too. I know that we don't have the full landscape of the lake shore in Oak Creek, but this is really just the south. Well, it's not even the most southernmost end. This is, you know, the work that the commission and previous commissions have put into Lake Vista. Just a little plug here to maybe get you excited. This group is going to have a lot of fun crafting and really detailing out the vision, the general vision that we have for the city, and that's to connect the area of the Lake Vista Park that we have here to the North Bluff, which the city owns. There's some properties in between that need some environmental work, but the idea has been to create a ribbon park along the lake shore itself at the lake bed. We have a lot of work to do with stabilizing that North Bluff and ultimately connecting that. And this group is going to be, you know, very influential in crafting that vision over the next several years. As quick as I can identify a funding source to do all this, we will do that. But you know, this is really, it seems to us just the beginning. But you know, this process started in, I think, 08, 09, and I think that's where Larry really inserted himself in the process to get us where we are today.
I'd like to make a suggestion based on the comments that I've heard so far. And you guys can let me know how you feel about it. We have 2 shelters in addition to the main pavilion at Lake Vista. And it sounds to me like that the proposal that's being brought to us is to name the pavilion after Mr. Haskins and name one of the shelters after Janet. That leaves another unnamed shelter. it doesn't quite solve the problem of what do we call that other shelter if we're calling it like the Fugel shelter, then Flugel?
Fugel.
Fugel, thank you. The Fugel shelter, what are we going to call the other one? We kicked around the idea of the trails. I wonder if to clean up the issue of the shelters, the way that we title the shelter, et cetera, we go with moving forward with the option 1 of naming the pavilion, the Haskins Pavilion, and naming the trail after Janet, so that the other 2 shelters continue to be shelter 1 and 2. And we don't leave this empty shelter that will inevitably, I feel like it would be really easy for the city to then feel like they need to name another shelter after somebody, because then there's this unnamed shelter at the park. And maybe to avoid that, that pressure, we move forward with naming the trails after Janet, which also is more in line with our history of naming parks, right? We have another set of trails that were named after a person. And I think it might clean up how this creates a snowball potentially of naming things.
I'm sorry, I
While
think
still honoring the people.
so we would be naming something after Janet under your proposal.
Yes.
The trails.
I'm more supportive of naming something after Larry if we are naming something after Janet.
I like that option as well, because I think that I like this, like keep the pavilions A and B. It's easy to remember, and the Haskins Pavilion as it is, I think that makes more sense. And I like the idea of naming a trail. It might, I don't know if it's more difficult to do, but I like that idea as well. I think it cleans it up a little bit. And you don't have, like you said, that pavilion without a name that's waiting for something else. It's easier when you're reserving it, you know what to look for. It's already identified as shelter A and B. And the pavilion could be the Haskins Pavilion then.
I agree.
Fine. That's a good way to look at it. I think that's a logical step there, Leah.
Is there any more questions or comments that anybody wants to make before we maybe move to a motion? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Guzikowski will make a motion that we name the pavilion Larry Haskins Pavilion, and the trails, the Janet Fugit trails at Lake Vista.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do we need a roll call for this?
Aye.
Lori?
I think we should.
Yeah, I think maybe we should too. All right, let's do a roll call. Anne?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Maybe Mike's still on mute.
Mike, you might be muted if you're,
Oh, now, can you hear me now?
yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Alderman Guzikowski,
Aye.
Heather Ryan,
Aye.
Adam's not here, so Nicole,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye. All right, excellent.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right, definitely sit down and counsel with it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Rukavich, for bringing this to us.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for that vote of support. Hopefully the council will see their way to do that. And then as we work with DPW to get those signs ready at the trails and whatever we do for Larry, we'll definitely have the park commission there to help celebrate this in some small.
And one quick thing, Steve had taken the time to identify some potential good locations for signage if we were to name the trails.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it would be appropriate for us not to belabor the the topic. I know we're have other things to attend to tonight, but whether that's something that we should also be weighing in on, or whether that's something that will be determined by park staff.
I think Ted and his staff can take care of it, much like the Dale Richards trails, where the park sign is at Emerald Preserve, the trail sign hangs underneath. So it's at every entrance, it's the Emerald Preserves with the Dale Richards trails. So that could be along Lake Vista, and I personally don't know how many park signs are down there. Maybe 3, 4. So everywhere we'd have a Lake Vista sign, there'd be a little sign hanging there that would say Janet Fugel Trail. That would be my thought, but we can concur with DPW. They're kind of the experts in it. I trust their staff.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, then moving to item C in new business, the informational staff report.
All right, I'll kind of make this somewhat short and sweet. Abbottshire Skate Park project, it's pretty exciting. It's moving forward. We gave out the bid to Hunger Skate Park. We'll have DPW staff start removing some of the existing ramps just in a week to get the site prepped for Hunger Skate Parks to come in and start doing their work. They anticipate it to be done at the end of June. And we are working with Laura Nelson, our new tourism board, or tourism member, to design a grand opening for the park. And we have a couple ideas floating, but nothing concrete yet. So we're looking to do the grand opening potentially some point mid-July. And hopefully put it together with another event that's going on in Abbottshire, so that we'll have food, drinks, and I'm hoping to get a couple of vendors to come and set up basically a bazaar type area where there's skate merchandise being sold. So hopefully we can make this big. And I'm also in the process of contacting other skate shops in Chicago, as south as Chicago and as north as Appleton. I don't know if you're aware from our outreach, but a lot of our skaters love traveling to new parks. So I want to tap into that as much as possible and new people seeing Oak Creek. So that's the goal. The Ryan Road Amazon Neighborhood Park Project. We are working with Milwaukee County still on this. We have run into quite a few roadblocks, and we're looking for a potential alternative. Short-term alternative is the best way I could word this. We're considering not doing the park project quite yet, and instead using some of those funds to create a trail that runs through the area that we've designated as the park, and eventually connect it to the neighborhood. So we'll see how that goes. We're still waiting to hear back from Milwaukee County this month to see if they are willing to move forward with this as well. The Orchard Hills Micro Park, I am hoping to do the public workshop this month in May. Sorry, I know I'm already jumping ahead. In May, to encourage the residents to start providing their thoughts on what they'd like to see in that small space, whether it's going to be playground equipment or gardening space. I would really love to hear their vision on what they want to see there. So another exciting news, Abbottshire Beer Garden, we're starting to kick that off. We have already started contacting architecture firms and engineering firms to see what their interest is. Mayor has been very involved in our city admin to start working on identifying a concept of what we want to go for. Staff is also working with some sources to go and get the parking lot expansion completed without using our funds. So we will see how that progresses. Baseball field improvement proposal. Staff is still continuing to discuss the maintenance staffing solutions and alternative locations that can support the competitive play. I might have another idea up my sleeve, and I'm working with Milwaukee County on that as well. So we'll see. Hopefully in the next time we meet, I have some more progress on that.
Is there any, have we looked at any potential fields that we have that we're looking to improve or do anything with these, or is this kind of at a standstill, or just checking to see where this is at?
I do have I do have one that's a city-owned field in mind. And I am waiting to be able to coordinate with another group to see if I can get it pulled off. If I can, I do have an alternative in mind, but I'm not really quite to the point where I can discuss it. And I don't want to get anyone's hopes up too far because I know you guys have been waiting for this for a very long time. So I'm just keep plugging along.
I'll just ask you because the two gentlemen that came to our meeting asked that kind of proposes this thing with these fields. Every time I run into them, they ask me about it. They're just asking for updates, and I really didn't have any. So I'm just wondering where that was at.
Sure. And Steve, maybe we should also sit down at some point and talk about the staffing issues, because maybe you might have a solution on how to handle it. If you recall, part of the issue is that we do not have our summer labor on staff yet when we prep these ball fields. And we just don't have enough staff to do it ourselves, especially when those fields get wet. So we are trying to find a solution to that too. It's just yet another barrier that we have to overcome.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't mind talking about that, see what we can come up with.
That would be great. And then we have Andrew joining us tonight to talk about the Recreation Department restructuring. In your staff report, it said in progress, and we had some progress recently, and he's here to discuss that with you.
Thanks, Lori. Did you have an opportunity to share the packet of information I gave you with the commissioner?
I was able to quickly send that over this afternoon. They might not have gotten a lot of time to review it though.
All right, let me just share my screen then and we'll walk through.
All right, let me just stop sharing so that you can.
Okay. So really, I don't recall exactly if we had the same lineup of commissioners the last time I talked to you about this, but I believe it was early August of 2020. It was about, it was last year. And we talked a little bit about the city's strategic action plan and the council's direction in our 2017 to 2020 strategic action plan. It talked a lot about aligning of services and examining shared platforms for, really cost efficiencies with the school district. In late summer of 2020, we addended our 2017 strategic plan for 2020 to 2022. And the council affirmed their desire under our inspired, aligned, and proactive city leadership, critical success factor, and under our evaluate, right size, and better align the city organization. A specific objective under that was finalize the succession plan for the recreation department, explore community recreation platform with the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District. So where we are at now is we've entered, the school board has discussed preliminarily, we've entered the public realm of this discussion. And so what kind of took so long when after I talked to you last, and I want to walk through that thought primer that we shared with you last time I was in front of you. We got COVIDed. We really had basically a veritable standstill in both camps on, social programming and recreation programming. It was pretty much, meeting the call of the day. We really haven't been doing too much. So in one way, that was a blessing because we were kind of going through this succession planning and going through these discussions with the Oak Creek Franklin School District. However, from probably August, when the first decision was made on kids in school, kids out of school, et cetera, probably until about, I don't know, maybe January, Heather, we really didn't talk too much about this. It was kind of just nobody was really moving the ball forward. In the meantime, though, we continued to think about it. And where we're at now is really we've encapsulated, and we just arrived at mutual agreement on the terms in that supplemental packet that Lori gave you. We just arrived at those. You'll see the data is April 20th. So we really just kind of finalized the numbers and things like that. But what I wanted to share with you, and I don't think I shared my screen yet, did I? Okay. I wanted to walk back through that thought primer document very briefly that we discussed last year, because really the agreement almost to a T, obviously with some other detail, really captures the spirit of the relationship and the values that we agreed to in this thought primer document. And if you can see my screen, I'll just walk through that. Obviously, the problem statement is, and I just want to be very frank, the community was really confused. We were offering overlapping programming. Nobody knew where to register. I just determined that there had to be some different way. And as I expressed with you last time I was in front of you with Mary Jane's retirement, it was an opportunity to look at this again. And the question we always ask ourselves is, if we were to build it again tomorrow, would we build it the same way, or would we build it a little bit different? I use the example of, does the city need to run a week-long summer camp for amphibians when the school district is running them for something fun to do with reptiles? Or maybe we could combine and talk about amphibians and reptiles one week. Just a thought. So we believe that we really did set out and believe that if we could find our way home on this, that a joint recreation platform would enhance recreational programming in the community kind of in toto. So one thing the Common Council said, and I think is very relevant for this commission as well, we wanted a collaborative and co-branded partnership with the school district. We did not just want to write a check and say, good luck to you guys. We hope you do well and right by all of us and everyone in the community. We really wanted to remain a stakeholder. And if you did have the opportunity to look at the agreement itself, in year 2, we're contributing almost $130,000 of our levy to the recreation platform. We also determined, very relevant for this group, that there must be, obviously, if we're a stakeholder, and we don't just, as the city, want to write a check and wish you luck, there had needed to be some joint level of representation. And in the contract, we've resolved to utilize the Parks and Recreation and Forestry Commission to be that advisory committee, that sounding board, that strategic partner that Heather would, as the lead agent now, Heather and the school district being the lead agent, would come report out, talk about some strategic thinking and some strategic questions that she has, and trying to really create a great cradle to grave platform in this community. So although I may be a little late in kind of circling back on the feedback loop with all of you on the public discussion on this, I really feel that this group is probably going to have more strategic leadership over some of the questions and policy, questions that Heather grapples with, which programs to kind of do, which programs to not do, than you ever have with, as I kind of understood and saw firsthand, we kind of just met and got an update from Mary Jane, and recreation was kind of what it was. However, with that said, although you'll be a key stakeholder here, the Parks and Recreation Commission is not the end all be all policy oversight board. You're not necessarily dictating the terms, if you will. You're helping craft the policy in this platform. Ultimately, Heather and her team, the school district administration, and ultimately the school board make the higher level policy decisions, but you will help craft them. And I think we all thought that was very important. And in order to do that, we have one representative from the school board, one representative from the city council, and then the citizens in between, and on the commission now, really. Again, need to accommodate all ages. Although we were competing for certain space, age groups and things like that, the way that youth programs has evolved in a very polite way, I think, trying to be complementary as opposed to overlapping. It was really devolving into the city taking the preschool kids, before school kids, and the adults and older adults, and it really was morphing into the school district really focusing on the school age population, and that ultimately would have caused more and more confusion in the community. But all ages is very important. Also equitable access, those in homeschool and private school arrangements outside of, I guess, the confines of the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District would obviously be basically residents of the, or constituents in the platform as well, including those that are in the district outside of Oak Creek, which is a small part that are in Franklin there. We also wanted to make sure that as much as possible, the existing recreation staff could find a new home in the Joints platform. They would be employees of the school district. That is ultimately was a goal that we could not attain. There is, I think, a proposal on the table is 3 staff. We currently have 5 part-time staff. However, as we go through this, we are hoping that they have other job opportunities in either the city or the school district, and of course give those folks a soft landing too, and be sensitive to definitely the times, but you know, the fact that they are going to find a new home. What we mean by recreation, again, very important for this group. The city will retain complete control, complete ownership, complete programming, policy making over the city's parks and facilities and ball fields. That will not change. What we are talking about is the programming, the physical recreation programming that goes on indoors or outdoors. But this commission and the city will continue to own, maintain, and improve the parks. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here. Also, there's some on the call probably don't know, but the city was providing maintenance via basically grass cutting, but other odds and ends too at school district facilities. And there was a separate MOU that covered those. And we have incorporated those maintenance components into this overall MOU, because if you think about it, the facilities maintenance was work that the city did in lieu of, or in compensation for the school district providing us facilities in their school buildings for our city recreation programming. I won't get into too much of the responsibilities of each, because that's in the MOU document itself. But again, the lead agent of the program is the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District and Heather. They will seek, at least on a quarterly basis, probably more early on or as needed, the advice of the Joint Advisory Committee here, which we fashioned as the Parks and Recreation Commission. And of course, annual report to the Common Council, just to keep that feedback loop going. Also in the MOU, which wasn't encapsulated in this thought primer, I believe it's, if I look back, I'd see it. I think within the first 2 years, the recreation platform is planning to do, or is required to do in the agreement, a community-wide survey. And Heather can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this group would be really influential in helping develop that survey, helping digest that survey, and really help fashion together kind of a mini strategic plan for where we want to head with the programs and services and activities that we offer. So before I wrap up, and I'd invite Alderman Guzikowski, Mayor Dan, or Heather to chime in. Before we wrap up, what was very enlightening throughout this process is the document that I had Lori supply you, and maybe I can just speak to it if it doesn't pop up, is the fact that, with the exception of, here we go. Can you see that spreadsheet total here, or am I on the wrong, or are you reading my personal emails?
No, it's the levy information.
It is, okay, let me, here we go. Kind of solidifying the uniqueness of the partnership, but really the not so uniqueness of the partnership. in every community in Milwaukee County, and I don't even have the city of Milwaukee on here, but MPS also provides their recreation programming largely in the same fashion not in the same fashion that we're doing, but the school district is in charge of really administering the programming. Every community, with the exception of the city of Greenfield, the school district is the lead agent for the community recreation programming in those communities. There's one other minor exception in Hills Corners. They run like 4 children's programs per year. I didn't even really dig into what they do, but that's very nominal. So with one exception, we're the outlier here in the city of Oak Creek. We also looked at where in those communities, and we also looked around the state, which is it's a little more even keeled in terms of the school district or the communities who provide their recreation programming. But certainly in Southeast Wisconsin, certainly in Milwaukee County, the city of Oak Creek is the outlier. Then we looked at what which communities provided levy support, and with very rare exception, Fox Point, who contribute, there's a consortium with Nicolay in the north, in the school district there, many communities involved. With the exception of Fox Point contributing $6,000 to the lacrosse club, there is no other city or community that provides direct levy support to the school district programming. So it was really important two ways that were unique here. The city wanted to remain a stakeholder. We wanted this to be a partnership and not just kind of a transactional relationship, but an ongoing partnership. That's number one. That's the levy support. But also the school district needed to, in order to make their finances work, they needed to demonstrate that at a minimum, the fixed costs that they are taking on from the city to carry on with our programming that we don't do, or that they don't do now, we obviously cost neutral. So the fixed costs are the subject of that 129. The school district is covering those. On the flip side, in terms of the finances, the city of Oak Creek is now being compensated for those public works functions that take place at the school site. So it worked out really well financially, I think, for both parties. The city, getting a little bit out of administering its own recreation programming, providing a more streamlined service that we can grow in this community together, and in turn being reimbursed then finally for our DPW expenses. So there's a little more strategy involved here that I'm probably overlooking, but I guess I'll pause for questions or maybe some comments from other folks that have been in the discussions, if it pleases you, Leah.
I can share a few thoughts too, just kind of as we're looking at it. For years, it had been the focus of the city working on everything outside of those students that are people in the community that are school aged, and the school district really focused on school age programming. And it did get confusing for the residents. It got confusing for our staff, for the rec staff from the city as well. It was also a challenge when working with other areas, like Andrew had mentioned, all throughout Milwaukee County. When I looked to my peers, they didn't have 2 programs running simultaneously. They were all running through the school districts. So there were no comparables. It was very difficult to kind of have them get into our shoes for a little bit. We have the great facilities now that we're able to use to do the programming in. I think that with the staff that we have coming from the city rec department, knowledgeable about the programs that they had done, the senior programming, really looking to do more with an 18 to 40-year-old group. We're in a position to be able to move things forward. And when I first started in the district 15 years ago now, there was an advisory board to the department that I worked with, and it kind of fell apart because there wasn't a lot that they could advise with. So I had looked for volunteers to help with that. And as you guys know, it's hard to find active community volunteers to work as an advisory council. So having this group as an advisory council will be very helpful in setting the direction and using it as a sounding board, like you said, Andrew, in the direction that we take with the programs that we do. If we're missing groups of citizens that we should be looking at, you would be the group that we're really counting on to help. and setting the tone for how we're going to go about surveying the community and getting more programming on board that fits their needs. We're looking, I don't like to use the word cradle to grave. I like to say that we're lifetime learners. And the programming that we do would be more not only recreational, but enrichment and educational as well. So we've got great resources with staff to be able to pull. We've got coaches that have familiarity with the recreational side of things that we can tap into, and the facilities to tap into. So I think it's going to help the community, and it's going to be more I'm hoping to be more streamlined for both the residents and for the leadership and council.
Just to maybe add on quickly, just in all candidness, we at the city really like what the school district has done the last, Heather, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Programs.
Right.
We were getting left in the dust. We weren't able to compete to that level and really overcome and be the best recreation department that we want to be, when it would have taken an immense amount of investment in under our levy. And the bottom line is the city doesn't have any facilities. So unless we were going to build a multi-million-dollar recreation building somewhere,
which we still could do, we could still
we could. And we're strategically thinking about getting you some additional space in some of our new developments too. We really didn't have the wherewithal or the will to emphasize to the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to get the program where we thought we would have wanted it to be, or where this group would have wanted it to be probably. And really prioritizing that over, police officers and firefighter EMTs and DPW staff. I mean, unfortunately, it's just not the biggest priority. And then when you looked at the landscape around the county and around Southeast Wisconsin, we're like, wait a second here, are we the dinosaur in the room here? Are we the ones that maybe let time go by a little bit on us? And is there a better way? So that really factored into the decision too. I think the city would have had to reinvent that department and really create a lot of levy capacity for recreation to do it justice. And we really love what Heather's doing. We really love what the school district's doing. I think we got a little stale over the years, and we've had great people work in the recreation department. I cannot tell you over the last year, from a management perspective, I've been basically telling these people, wait. I know you don't know what's going to happen with your jobs and your livelihood. They have been absolute rock stars. Paula Navarez holding this thing together, all of the staff we've had. So I just really couldn't thank them enough, and had to do that here publicly. And I will, when we talk about this at the council too, because without them, we would have just been, while we're out of the recreation business, I sure hope the school district can kind of come through and we can get this platform done. So
yeah, they have been wonderful to work with, even in these early stages as well. Very professional and interested in moving forward.
Thank you, Andrew. I think it's really exciting. I mean, I was a member of the board when this first was brought to the board. I've been on this commission for almost 4 years. And so it's been exciting to see. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to really provide some exciting new services for the community without necessarily, in a really financially responsible way, So Heather, you're outstanding at what you do. So I'm just so excited to have you get to build on the work you've been doing at the school district for the whole community, for the lifetime learner, and thrilled that this commission will have the opportunity to be a part of it.
And if I can speak, Leah, I'd appreciate it. Just one comment.
Please.
We've looked at this for a long time, and Andrew really spelled it out really well. This wasn't about competing. It was about really providing the best services, in the city, whether with the school or the city, to the citizens. And this just totally makes sense. At the heart of what we do, regardless of city or school, we're here to serve the constituents. So this really does make the best sense. And again, the Parks Commission will remain busy either way. There'll still be some rec stuff to do, maybe not the full slate what Mary Jane had, but we're looking at some beautification efforts too, and we want to look at that going forward as well. Get you active on that because that commission kind of unraveled a little bit, so to speak. So, but thanks for having me. I really do appreciate you guys and all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Is there anything else for the informational staff report, Lori? You're on mute.
I'm on mute. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, the only thing left really to say is that our next meeting is going to be July 8th. And we'll see you then. So.
Okay, I guess then we're moving to adjournment. Is there any opposition to adjournment?
Leah, could I just add one thing?
Please.
I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
The lineup here moving forward is the council will review this on May 4th and hopefully approve it. And the school board will review if the council moves it on May 10th. However, this doesn't transition until, as you saw, I know you probably hadn't had time to read the documents, but this doesn't transition until September. So we have some time if you have any questions or really good suggestions or anything. There's nothing that needs to be done in the immediate with this platform change if it all does get approved by both entities. So just wanted to throw that out there.
And Andrew, do you want to speak on behalf of if this is going to cause any changes to the Parks Commission? Are we going to add a new member? I know this is a question that came up from one of our commission members.
So we need a school board member. We need a
I'll become a non-voting member.
We need an alderman. So I have not talked with Dan about that. But I think, with Heather being the lead agent as a staff liaison, I think, what we would look there. I don't think we want to boot off a citizen member. No, that didn't sound very nice. I don't think we want, I think there's probably a swifter way to do this with Heather being usually you don't have staff on guidance boards, but we haven't really talked about that yet. And that's part of the, we have a few months to figure that out. And I haven't talked to Dan. I think you make these appointments. Is that correct, Dan? Not council president?
Yes, I make the appointments.
Okay, so we can figure that out.
And I was gonna say, one of the easy ways might be this position that I have would be the school board member position. And then because I'm a non-voting member, so that's an easy transition and then everybody else stays the same.
Yeah, that's hopeful right there. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I mean, Heather, you're currently here as a representative of the district.
Yes.
Already, because there's already an agreement that there would be a school district representative on the commission. So what we're doing is we're transitioning away from having a school district representative and specifically having a board member.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could I make a request? This might be to city officials, to Lori specifically, that should this pass, that we might make it a specific agenda item on continuing agenda item on each meeting so that we can really stay on top of this and centralize it to our meetings. I feel like even in July, there's at least going to be a worthy update for this commission on this, no matter what happens with the votes in May with the council and the board. So if we could just, for the time being, kind of add it as a permanent agenda item, I think that would be helpful in us sort of ensuring that we're giving it the attention it requires.
Sure, I'll definitely coordinate with Andrew on that and Heather and try to provide an update in July. I'll send out an email approximately a week out and contact them just so that we can get that information streamlined to you.
Excellent. Okay, anything else from anyone? All right, then any opposition to adjournment? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.